In this episode, I want to talk about how we view art because, of course, we all view art differently. Each and every single one of us will view art in a different way. But there are some consistencies and interesting ways that we respond to artwork, which I think is really helpful in understanding because when you understand how people read an artwork, it helps you when you come to sell. It helps when you come to make your own artwork. It helps you understand why and how you respond to other people's artwork and why maybe some artwork makes you feel like, oh, another artwork makes you feel, ah. And it helps you understand why other people have different responses to your artwork, which can really help eliminate the need to appeal to everybody and for everyone to love your artwork because it's impossible. Not everyone is going to like your artwork. So, in this episode, I want to talk about this because it's going to help in all these different ways, especially help you realize that not everyone will like your work and that is okay. So, we had a discussion, my members and I, recently about the two different main ways of viewing an artwork, and that is objectively and subjectively. And objectively is fact. So, we look at an artwork and we will know the size of that artwork. That's fact. We will know the colours, which are fact. A little bit of a grey area because we see colours differently, but we can all agree that a red is a red. There's some boundaries of where a red changes, but in its purest form, we can all agree that this is a red colour, for example. Um, there might be shapes, forms in an artwork where we all agree that this is a flower, that is the sun. So there are things that we can identify within an artwork that is fact, things that we're looking at that we all agree that, yeah, that is what that is. And that's one way of viewing an artwork. And so when you see an artwork, that might be how you first approach it. You might look objectively, whether you're realizing this or not as well, because your brain is processing what it sees. And that's one of the ways the brain processes. It will look at something, it starts to look for differences, it starts to look for how does this relate to me. um, and then the other way is subjectively. So when you're looking at an artwork subjectively, that is all about feeling. It's about what that actually makes you feel. It's your interpretation, it's your subjective view based on what you feel inside of you. And that is different for everybody. We could put a picture in front of everybody right now, and everybody will have a certain agreement that what we're looking at is a flower. And then everybody in the room will have a different feeling on how that picture makes them feel. And that's because we've all got different experiences, we've got different feelings. That flower, for example, might remind somebody, maybe they were brought up with those flowers in the garden and it was such a happy memory. So when they see their flowers, they go, oh, that reminds me of feeling safe and warm. For someone else, they might have got stung by a nettle that was next to those flowers as a child, and now they see that flower subconsciously and go, oh no, I don't like that. They might not realize why. So have you ever had this where you've looked at an artwork and you think, oh no, I don't like that, but you can't explain why? And it's usually because we've got some kind of memory, some kind of part of us that's gone, oh no, we don't like that, because the brain has remembered something, and what you're seeing is a trigger for that, going, no, no, we don't like that. So sometimes if you view an artwork and you don't know why it makes you feel uncomfortable, it's your brain is relating. Because what we do as humans is we see things and our brain instantly is trying to work things out, looking at differences, trying to put things into perspective, trying to work out what it is. And then how does this relate to us? We always bring things back to ourselves, even if we don't like to admit it. And quite often it's subconscious. We don't consciously do these things. It's our brain But quite often we're bringing things back to ourselves, like, how does this relate to me? We're looking for connections. We're looking for a snippet of, oh, yeah, I understand that. I remember this scene, this beach scene. Oh my gosh, that reminds me of a holiday that I took as a child. Our brain is constantly trying to put things into context and relate to things. And how does this make me feel? So, when we go back to then how viewing an artwork in these two ways, you might see an artwork and maybe there's no feeling. So you look at the artwork then in your brain. If you don't feel anything, your brain will then go to the objective. Well, what are we looking at here? So I can see something red and I can see a person, they're sat on a bench, and you'll look for the facts. Sometimes an artwork might just stir the emotion straight away. So you look at the artwork and you're like, whoa, that just gave me goosebumps. That's just reminded me of something so powerful. So there's these two ways of viewing, and you might be flipping between them both. You might look at one artwork, like I say, not feel anything. So you might be in a gallery, you might look at an artwork and go, yeah, it's blue. It's an abstract. And just keep walking because it's not connected with you in any way. Um, and so this is really helpful to recognize. And we do this exercise with our members when we are critiquing artwork, because what we do is the first place when we're looking at an artwork is we look at what the facts are, what is the objective view, what can we actually see, and then we bring the subjective view into play, because the subjective then is based on your feelings and your reaction, and everybody's going to have a different reaction. Some people might have a similar reaction, and then you might get a few other people that have a completely different reaction. And this is why art is so amazing and beautiful and interesting, because your art has the power to stir emotions in other people. It has the power to remind people, to help them connect. There's a great quote, and I think it was from someone called Paul Klein, who said that through your art, in showing yourself, you are allowing others to see themselves. So you're kind of, making your artwork in your own way, and then when someone sees that, you're giving them an invitation then through your art to connect with that, and then they're looking, and how does that connect to me? How does this relate to me? And some people might not relate, and some people might relate. And this is the thing to be aware of, is that you're not going to connect with every single person. It's impossible, because we're all so individual and so unique in what we see and our experiences. So what you're looking for is to connect with people who do connect with your artwork. So when we think about, I'm just going to hold up two things now. So if you're listening on the podcast, I'll put some pictures in the show notes. But I've got one card in my hand, which is a pink card, and it's of a flower. Well, lots of flowers, and we'll all agree that that's a fact, that we're looking at flowers and it's pink. And what when we look at something objectively like that, um, we can all agree. And then I'm holding up another card next to it. So the flowers are really realistic. They are painted in, like, with a watercolor. They've got watery stains, but they look very, very realistic. And there's lots of different tones, so they've got depth. And I've got another card that I'm looking at, which is completely opposite. It's not depicting something realistic. It's got figures. There's two figures who are embracing. One's got angel wings. One's wearing a green dress. One's wearing a red dress. These are now objective views that I'm doing. It's got a blue background. There are two kind of birds, another figure in the foreground holding a bird. There's a sun shape face. It looks like a sun to me, but again, this is subjective now. There's a face in the top, and the face has got, like, triangular, it looks like flowers, petals, but they're triangular, jagged, coming all the way round to frame it, a bit like a lion's mane. Um, and so this is not depicting something realistic. The figure in red, the hand, is, kind of really flat. It looks a little bit out of scale. The hand looks a little bit too big. But this artist is not trying to depict something that's realistic. In fact, the title, it's Mercamora, it's Blue-Eyed Angel's Dream. So obviously this dream, in a dream you don't maybe depict things in as you exactly see them. This piece that I'm looking at now is more symbolic, and it's more about emotion and the subjective view. And there's parts of this piece that we'll all look at and have a different view. Like I said, this piece was a sun, but actually now maybe it's the moon. It's got a pale white face. Maybe it isn't anything like that. So we'll all have a subjective view of what this means. And there might be a group of you that see this as something, and then a minority that see it as something completely different. And that is because of our experiences and knowledge, what our interests are, what it instantly reminds us of. That's always different, and it's okay for that to be different. Sometimes I've felt like this in the past, that when you see an artwork, you've got to come to it with intellectual background, and you've got to know exactly what the artist intended, and you're going to make yourself look really silly if you say something and it's the wrong answer. That is not the case with artwork, because whatever the artist intended, that's great. But as an artist, you've got to realize that, yeah, we can try and help people have the same intent that we have, but there's also this beautiful part of sharing your art where you have let other people have their own interpretation, and that's wonderful. And I think it's great, because it goes back to when you show this to children, they'll have such an amazing insight, and they don't hold back with what they see. But as grown-ups, we tend to hold back, and we're a bit afraid to actually say, in case we make ourselves look silly. But it's wonderful. That's the objective versus subjective. So when you are sharing your artwork, always know that somebody might see something crazy, or they might feel uncomfortable with your artwork. It's no reflection on you. It's because of their feelings towards the shapes and colors and forms, or whatever that you've depicted makes them feel. So when you realize that, it takes that pressure off you. And you know, also if someone doesn't like it, oh, that's just, it's because of them, it's not because of you. You maybe have triggered something in someone, and it's always interesting to learn and understand why. But it doesn't mean that you should start changing your artwork, because you could put it in front of another group of people who really connect with it and go, yes, I get it. Maybe you do want to make people feel uncomfortable. Art doesn't have to make people feel happy and calm. You can use your art to trigger people. So when you start to understand that as an artist, like, the best thing you can do is just be yourself. Make the art you want to make in the way that you want to make it. Um, and then understanding this objective versus subjective, there are views that people will have looking at something super, super realistic to not so realistic, where some people with the unrealistic might feel uncomfortable. Maybe they don't like that hand that's out of proportion. It makes me feel, no, I like things symmetrical and I like things to scale. But somebody else might not like things to scale. They might not like things ordered and exactly how I see it, because for me, I need more feeling. So everybody's different. One of the things that I do know about this, though, and this is in terms of selling, is that when somebody does view your artwork, if if there is no connection, so if somebody sees your artwork and they go, "Oh, girl, yes, a flower," and then move on. Um, some people might instantly connect with it. You might get people go, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I've got to have that." But there might be some people that don't connect, but it doesn't mean they won't always connect with it. And this is where, as artists, we can do more to help people connect, because especially if you're selling, if you're trying to sell to people who haven't connected yet with your artwork, if they're not feeling something, because this is why people buy artwork, they feel something. And artwork triggers an emotional response in people. And it's that emotional response that someone feels, that if it's strong enough, then they will buy the artwork, if they've connected to it in a way that they think, gosh, yeah, I want this. Whether it's good or bad, it's stirring an emotion. Yeah, I want this. There is more that you can do as an artist to gain more connection to your artwork, because that is what it's all about. People are looking and asking, how does this connect to me? And if someone's looking at your artwork and it's not connecting to them and they think, no, don't get it, or there's just no spark there, then they're just going to walk away and move on. There is more that you can do to share more about your art practice, to share more about how other people have interpreted your artwork, comments that people have made, maybe where your inspiration came from. There is more you can do to spark that connection. So this is where if you just put your artwork out there with nothing, you're relying on people to have that connection, when actually there's so much more you can do to help people have that spark. That spark is where the magic comes, when someone goes, oh, I see it now. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. um, so I know it's a long way off, but in September, I have the Make Art Your Living workshops starting. And this is what I want to start sharing over the next few podcast episodes. I'm going to be sharing more information about this as we prepare for those workshops in September. I only run those workshops once a year, and we make it a huge, big event where we get thousands of artists together. And it's really exciting. And I love doing them. But the whole focus of those workshops is what I'm talking about here. It's how to make artwork that's really true to you, and how to start getting it out in the world, finding your people, finding people that connect to it and helping them connect to it, because it's so much more powerful when you do that. So I'd love you to just take this away when you next view an artwork. Think of those two ways, objective and subjective. Don't get, sometimes the lines blur and you don't know whether it's an objective or a subjective. Don't get too hung up on it. Just view it. And if you're viewing an artwork, first of all, view it objectively. What can you see? What is fact? And then start to let yourself bring in your emotion and look subjectively. How does it make you feel? What are you noticing? What is it stirring up inside of you? Do you like it? Do you not like it? um, and just notice that when you're viewing artwork, because all of this will help when you make your own artwork. And remember, you don't have to appeal to everybody. Okay, so I think I've covered everything that I wanted to. So if you want to sign up for the wait list to join the Make Art Your Living workshops that are completely free in September, the link is somewhere around here. And I will see you next week for another session. Take care. Bye bye.